Longevity Junkie. It's time to get your fix. I'm Nikki Lee, the OG Longevity Junkie.
And I'm Buck Joffrey, the health conscious hedonist, although not so much of a hedonist anymore. We'll talk about that later.
As of late, right?
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to a special follow-up on our stem cell therapy trip, courtesy of BioAccelerator.
So we're going to talk more about the results. Well, I don't know if it's probably a little early for results, but we'll talk a little bit about sort of the reaction to this groundbreaking, process. And to help with that, we are delighted to welcome to the show someone who we met down in Medellin, who is no stranger to stem cell therapy, and also no stranger, I think, to people who are in the world of MMA fighting.
Yes, I know. I'm so excited. TJ Dillashaw is an American former professional mixed martial artist who competed in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, where he is a former two-time UFC bantamweight champion.
Yeah, he's also the founder of Wild Society, which is a health-driven nutrition company. TJ is really dedicated to competitions. Sport inspired him to create Wild Society, and with the company's mission really to encourage people to pursue their personal best, whatever that may be.
Welcome to the show, TJ.
Welcome, TJ. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, guys. And it was such a pleasure to meet you down in Colombia, and all of us chasing this journey of health and wellness and longevity. It's been fun to get to know you guys.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into the stem cell fun in a bit, but just wanted to kind of get started with you, right?
Yeah, we want to make sure. I know you have a huge fan base, TJ, but for those who don't know you, we definitely want to know more about the person who you are and your accolades and things like that. Can you walk us through your transition from collegiate wrestling into MMA and what motivated you to switch into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was on a full ride scholarship wrestling at Cal State Fullerton.
Ooh, alum, me too.
Great school.
Yep.
They had an amazing kinesiology program, which I was a part of. Was studying clinical exercise science. I was enrolled in grad school. I was doing like some summer school to try to finish my prereqs to get into grad school. And my assistant wrestling coach at the time was Mark Munoz. He was a UFC fighter, also my wrestling coach. I never really reached my goals in wrestling that I reached out to. I always kind of shoot for the stars, and I didn't get there, right? So I didn't feel like my competition was done. And he kind of talked me into fighting. He's like, I think you'd be a real good fighter. You're a real aggressive wrestler. I think you should give it a shot. And at the time I was doing summer school, and I was taking chemistry over the summer, which was just like the worst thing ever. And so I said, you know what? You're right. I dropped out of school, said I give myself a year. If I'm any good at fighting, then I'll stick with it. If not, I can always go back to school. Right. And so packed up my truck, moved to Sacramento, started sleeping on a couch at one of Uriah Faber's houses, and decided to give this fighting thing a shot, and just never looked back.
So I was an organic chemistry tutor, so I was sort of the opposite of you. Didn't go.
I thought you were about to say I was a wrestler too, Buck. I was like, wait.
No, I did Krav Maga for a very short period of time. I had a lot of fun doing it. But I'm curious, kind of like when you think about fighting, what do you love about it? What gets you super excited about it?
Oh, well, I think it first just started for the love of competing. That's kind of like all I did my whole life, right? I mean, I had some jobs here and there, but ever since 8 years old, I've just been competing wrestling. Every weekend, week in, week out, just focusing on being the best, right? That was always the goal, is being the best no matter what you were doing. And so I fell in love with the competition aspect of it. But then especially when it came to fighting, I'm an adrenaline junkie, right? I'll never feel more alive than I did walking out to that cage in front of millions of people to, try to physically harm someone to pay your bills. And just like I've always said, like, I'll never feel more alive than I did in those moments, right? Like just so nervous and so scared, to be honest, right? Like every professional athlete, everyone that's chasing the dream of being the best, they have this fear within them of performance. Not so much maybe getting hurt, like, you can get over that pretty quick. You learn that, your body heals pretty fast and things hurt maybe for a little bit, but more so just for performance, right? Like you speak this big game that you're the best in the world, and then you got to get out there and prove it. And that's a pretty nerve-wracking feeling, but ultimately those nerves will make you feel more alive than you've ever felt in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think not only listen, I'm just sort of just did a little bit of Krav Maga and competed a little against the other guys in the class, but I will say this much: as an ex-athlete myself, as an ice hockey player, a pretty competitive level and that kind of thing. There really is nothing like somebody trying to kick your butt and you really fighting back. The adrenaline there, like, is insane. And if anybody hasn't tried it, I highly encourage it. And it's funny because I was listening to Joe Rogan and he was interviewing Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't know if you know about this, TJ, but Zuckerberg, Facebook guy, he's totally into, the MMA fighting right now. And it's completely like sort of changed his personality. Like he has become more confident. He talks a lot about, and I know what he means by this, but like sort of a masculine energy in a world where like corporate America has become sort of emasculated, and it's really fascinating. But I mean, that's kind of what I was wondering about. Do you hear a lot of people talk about that sort of change?
I think it's impossible not to change who you are once you get into martial arts, and especially at a competitive level. And if you're training day in and day out with people that are very good, that are pushing your limits with you, you kind of have to let go of your ego, right? Like you're going to have days where you get beat up, and you're going to have days where you're doing the beating up. And just really like I'd say like 99% of the fighters that I meet and hang out with don't have a chip on their shoulder. They're very good human beings. And, have taken their own lickings, which, will kind of put a reality on kind of what matters and, your importance and your ego ultimately.
I couldn't go out there and be like, I'm the shit. Da, da, da. Like that is just not my personality. I can't. Was that your personality going into it, or did you have to play a role and then?
Yeah, I mean, I never really played a role, right? If I would have, I probably would have made a lot more money. There's some guys out there that are really good at it, playing things, and have played a role and have built the drama up. And for me, most of it was just a reality. And in the beginning of your career, it's like, you don't want to go out there and talk a bunch of shit and be super confident about winning, because then you really do have to back it up. But then, I don't know, once you really start honing in and believing in yourself, that, the power of belief, like I'm really into the book, The Secret, and the power of belief is something that you can't replace. And having that ultimate, I call it delusional optimistic, right? Like no matter what, I'm always going to win. Like I'm always going to be delusionally optimistic. I'm like, it resonates with you and your body believes it. Like to where if you're negative all the time and you're in your own head, like talking bad about yourself, even if it's like about your body or about your work, about whatever it may be in your life, like it's going to affect your overall well-being and the cortisol buildup in your body. So I think being optimistic in life is just a better way to go about it.
Did you have a plan for that? Or did you have affirmations or anything?
No, I just kind of, like I said, I've competed since I was 8, and I've had to learn even through my career, even through halfway through my professional fighting career. It's kind of something that kind of pick up as you go, because you see it's making you more successful. Not so much, I wish I would have maybe done this sooner, but it's just, everyone learns how they perform the best. Like some fighters, they have to be really angry at their opponent. Some fighters, have to be like myself. I like to be more happy, enjoy myself, and kind of like show off out there. And then there's other guys that perform really scared. Everyone's wired a little bit differently, and you got to kind of find out how you tick to have your greatest performance, and ultimately try to get into that flow state. Like what I would say, like the Michael Jordans of the world are able to tap into, and finding what energy system that is for you, and how that makes you perform each day.
Longevity Junky is grateful to our partners at BioAccelerator for a very memorable trip and experience.
Agreed. Buck and I both benefited greatly from this incredible stem cell therapy, which can play a huge role in longevity.
You may know BioAccelerator is one of the leading stem cell research laboratories in the world, delivering advanced therapies directed at anything from anti-aging, pain relief, skin rejuvenation, and even preventive care.
It's truly inspiring work that can help each and every one of us. And if you want to learn more, please reach out to Liz at longevityjunky@bioaccelerator.com for special discounts and offers. That's Longevity Junky, spelled with a Y, at bioaccelerator.com for special discounts and offers. Welcome back to Longevity Junkie.
When you entered the sport, it was, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's relatively new, right? So what was it like back then compared to now? What are the changes that you've seen? And I'm just curious in terms of like, you know, these new guys are probably getting paid a lot more too. I'm just curious on like the changes that you've seen in that sport.
Yeah, I mean, it's just evolved, right? Like we're on ESPN now, to where like, when I started, we were on Spike TV, right? Like
I remember Spike. Yeah,
not so much mainstream, and now it's very popular to where you do have like the Mark Zuckerbergs, the president of the United States, and all these big time movie stars and whatnot sitting front row, right? It went from maybe people looking down upon it as like human cockfighting to now being like the world's best and biggest sport. And I've got to go, since I fought for 15 years in the UFC, I've got to see a lot of transitioning, right? Like the Ultimate Fighter skyrocketed, the reality TV show helped it really take off. And I remember, you know, when I won my world title to defending it for the next like 5 years and stuff, to see like the difference of who's actually in the crowd and, you know, seeing some of the people that like Anthony Kiedis sitting front row while you're fighting. And I'm a huge Chili Peppers fan, or, you know, big movie stars and Shaquille O'Neal sitting right on the cage. And it's just crazy to see how much it's become not only acceptable, but renowned, you know, and that's the biggest thing. And then the more attention that comes along with it is the more money. So yeah, guys are starting to get paid more, and the bigger brand you build for yourself, the more money you're going to make.
And okay, so when we were in Medellin, we were sitting next to each other at dinner, and I remember like I felt like I bonded with you over our discipline in not ordering certain foods and things like that. So I wanted to kind of bring that, because we have to, like, you especially have to follow like such a strict nutrition plan when you're fighting and things like that. But even also just kind of, I've noticed, because I can relate to that, if you want to have like a healthy lifestyle. For you specifically, can you break down the typical daily diet that you have and explain like your reasonings behind it? Because I know also that you had to learn a lot of, you know, nutritional facts and science behind why you chose these different things. So I'm very curious.
Absolutely. I've kind of been on like a 7-year diet, right? That I don't falter from. I don't like to have cheat days, and that kind of comes from my mindset of, I think, the same way I treated fighting. I became kind of like OCD about certain things, and you know, I've been retired for over 2 years, and I'm still on a good diet. And because I've just seen the benefits of it. And in my diet, I'm not really counting macros, you know, exactly, right? Maybe I was doing that when I was getting towards the end of my fight camp, and I knew I had to make weight. I would count my calories and what I'm consuming when it comes to all my macros to really hone in on making weight. But now I don't count my macros. I just eat a certain way. I remember when I first became world champion, I had a teammate that went gluten-free. This is before anyone knew like really even like the effects of gluten. And I was like making fun of him. Like I was eating pizza. We'd go to a restaurant, he'd order something because he was gluten-free, and I'd be like, give me his gluten. I'll eat it all. I don't care, right? Just doesn't matter. I'll just work harder. But then, you know, as I got older in the sport, I really had to hone in on what was going to let me be able to keep up with these young bucks. And I met a coach, Sam Calavita, out of the training lab, that is way ahead of his time. He's a savant when it comes to performance and supplementation and nutrition. I've learned a lot from him. I learned more from him than I ever did in school, and really as a way just to optimize my hormones, optimize my recovery. So I don't eat like any kind of added sugars, no man-made sugars. I eat tons of fruit and things like that because I need the carbs to perform my daily regimen of working out, and back then when I was performing. So you know, really high protein consumption. You know, I'm trying to eat anywhere from 180 to 200 grams of protein today because I'm trying to gain weight. If you want to put on muscle mass, you got to feed that engine. And by feeding that engine, making that engine bigger, you're ultimately going to burn more fat. You're going to become a fat burning machine. So animal-based, high protein diet, avoid any kind of, I'm gluten free, right? Like I avoid any kind of grains for the most part. Some things I'll eat like quinoa and I'll eat some rice here and there to spike my insulin when I'm going to hit a workout. Really into masticating juicing, doing a cold press juice to absorb the nutrients from the vegetables. You actually absorb like a ton more by keeping it raw and juicing than you would actually just eating it.
Well, sometimes because people also overcook it and things like that too.
Yeah, you cook a lot of the nutrients out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I mean that's kind of like as a nutshell, like kind of like what I stick to as a diet. And it started off for performance, and now it's just so that I look good naked.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I stay in shape, and I wake up better. I feel better in the morning, and it has obviously
fasting or anything.
Yeah, I mean I don't purposely do it, but I'd say like I usually don't eat my first meal till about 12 o'clock, and that's just because maybe I get busy and I've just done it throughout my career, and you come to find out it's actually healthier for you anyways. And then I'll do those 3-day water fasts here and there and just drink water for 86 hours. I'll do that probably like twice or 3 times a year to really clean out some of the bad and dead cells that are within your body. And I've really found out that, longevity is about tricking your body, making it think it's going to die, right? To like repair itself. Me sitting in my cold plunge, to release those shock proteins from, thinking you're freezing to death, or super hot sauna, or fasting for 86 hours. All these things to kind of trigger the repair within your body.
Yeah, that concept, by the way, and you probably know this, is it's a concept called hormesis, and it's pretty well recognized as, the idea is, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So you're trying to sometimes fool your body into, these stressful situations. And so, particularly your 3-day fasts, and sauna, those types of things have, significant hormetic effects. So yeah, lots of science behind what you're doing. So
yeah. And it's really cool that the population's gotten so motivated behind it right now, because when I started doing it all, like, I don't know, people thought I was crazy, right? Like, it was like, what are you doing? And why are you doing it? And luckily I had a coach that was ahead of the curve, and now everything that's catching up and all the science is coming out. It's like, all right, I've been doing the right thing and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Like me, I just believed in the coach that pointed me in the right direction.
It's always nice when you're doing things naturally. And that's another thing too, is being able to listen to your body. So when you're doing things naturally, and that becomes the healthy, like that will always become really the healthy decision. But it's really nice to see that the science, if you will, like backs it up, and that there's so much to support you now. And you're like, see, I wasn't crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's all this like methylene blue stuff coming out, right? Like, I see a lot of people get big into methylene blue, and it's like, I've been doing it for 5 years. And my wife used to make fun of me that I was going to some like shady clinic that was giving me some blue dye. Yeah. Red light. My tongue's a little bit blue now, right?
A little bit.
It's those natural things that you've been doing that now you catch up and you see the science behind it. It's really just makes you feel good about the decisions you've made.
Yeah.
Some of those things are a little tricky. I mean, we talked about methylene blue, I think, when we were together. One of the big concerns with methylene blue is a lot of it's man-made to begin with. And so like that opens up a lot of potential toxins within methylene blue as well. So there's a control issue. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of, things to consider. So
of course. Yeah. You got to be aware of the heavy metals when it starts coming to manufacturing. Like the same thing I have to deal with all these products that we're developing is, making sure that you're doing everything ethically in the right way and being radically transparent with our consumers, right? So we're doing all the heavy metal testing. We're doing informed choice, which is the third-party testing, so that you know that every ingredient we list on our bag is actually in that product. And, wanted to build something that I could really stand behind and be proud of it and give it to my son or my family and know that we're doing something healthy. So with that being said, methylene blue, you just got to make sure you're finding it from a quality source. And I believe that I found that.
Now I want to get into your workout schedule and your training schedule. I know it's probably vastly different from when you were, fighting to now, but I'm wondering if you could take us through the differences in that.
Completely different lifestyle, right? Like when I was competing, probably working out like 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? And trying to do it as smart as possible without overworking, which is very hard to do. When you have so many disciplines to train for an MMA fight, I got to do boxing, I got to do kickboxing, I got to wrestle, I got to do jiu-jitsu, I got strength and conditioning. There's so many aspects to a fight, and you got to get them all in a 10-week training camp, making sure that you are doing it the right way. So, I'd probably go like 2 days a week that were super hard, where I'd have probably 3 practices in that day, where I would do my hard sparring sessions, my hard wrestling, and do strength and conditioning. Those days for me were always on a Tuesday and a Saturday. But I knew that because my Wednesdays and my Sundays were completely off. Not only were they off, but I was doing above and beyond when it came to recovery for the cold plunge, the hyperbaric chambers, the red light therapy on those days off, so that my body could, heal from those stresses that I put on it and get the gains out of it without continuing to do too much, and then bounce back out of it. So when I was working out to fight, it would be redlining my body. I'd be pushing lactic thresholds. I would be doing things you wouldn't want to do on a healthy lifestyle, but I was doing it for a reason, to be in the best in the world. Now, and even back then too, I would sleep with a heart rate monitor on, not like a Aura ring or like a Whoop, because those help, but they're not as accurate as you'd want them to be, right? Because you really, really want to wear a chest strap to where it's picking up the actual heartbeat and testing your heart rate variability. And that's like the best way to tell if you're being overworked, if you're getting sick. Like my coach would find out I was getting sick 2 days before I'd get sick because of what my central nervous system was doing. And so I know like when to pull back, when I can go hard. And so that was a big part of my life then. Now it's kind of just off of a feeling, right? Because I'm not having to peak for a single night to become a world champion. I'm just trying to live a healthy lifestyle and, like I said, look good and feel good ultimately. So now I do, because my life was about managing my weight, and now it's the opposite. I feel like I really just get to pack as much muscle on as I want. And so I do a lot more what I would say like meathead style workouts. I do a lot of lifting weights, a lot of like just weight training in general, putting on more skeletal muscle mass. I still do some cardio, but it's a lot more limited compared to what it used to be. I'll probably do 1 or 2 days a week to where I'm doing what I call low base zone 2 training. Probably roughly like a 10-minute mile time that, I do for like 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. So 3 to 4.5 miles. And that's just for the health and wellness and continue to keep my body to burn fat. But other than that, just eating a lot of protein and lifting heavy weights.
Yeah. So just a few things to, I think, unpack, I guess, for listeners. One thing that you talked about there was heart rate variability. And so, just to help people understand what that is. So heart rate variability is different from heart rate. It is essentially the differences in the time between beats. So it's not like, counting how many beats per minute. It's actually measuring the time between beats. And in an individual who has, whose nervous system is more in the rest and relax state, which we call the parasympathetic state, you tend to have more variability from beat to beat. And that's called heart rate variability, an increase in heart rate variability. So the more fight or flight or stress response you have from a nervous system, the less variability you're going to have. And so the lower the heart rate variability score that you're testing. So one of the things that TJ was mentioning was that he was using heart rate variability in part. His coach could tell when he was getting sick. Well, part of that is because when you're getting sick, you're basically your body feels more stressed, and you end up with more what's called sympathetic nervous system tone. The other thing, I guess, to ask you, TJ, is, in terms of your recovery techniques and stuff, talk a little bit about sleep. I mean, what's your sleep schedule? How did you prioritize sleep?
Yeah, it's probably one thing that I've always could have been a little bit better at, especially me knowing how important it is. I'm one of those brains that's hard to shut off sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm a night owl. I stay up too late. Especially now today with being an entrepreneur, like staying up way too late, grinding the midnight oils. But sleep's very important. And by me following my heart rate variability, I would know if I needed more of it or less of it. Right. And you can sleep too much as well. Right. It's like 10 hours of sleep actually isn't that great for you. Right. You know, like I've seen a lot of science around honing in on that 7 hours kind of deal, but I don't know. I'm sure we'll continue to find out more information around it, but I wish I was better and more in tune to going to bed a little bit earlier. You know, like I probably should be going to bed at like 10:30, 10 rather than staying up till midnight, you know, but I do a lot of my recovery protocols at night when the day is over, when work is done, my son's gone to sleep, we've already done wrestling practice. Then I kind of focus on some of my recovery at night. Like I'll go sit in my hyperbaric chamber for 90 minutes and do some red light optimization before I go to bed to kind of really get that, you know, that rhythm. So I stay up a little bit too late sometimes because of that.
Yeah, you know, there are differences in what we call sleep chronotypes too. Some people are naturally more, you know, go to bed a little bit later, wake up a little bit later. But one of the things it might be useful, and just as an aside, is, you know, one of the problems with staying up late, of course, is that there does tend to be these phases of sleep that are really important. One is deep non-REM sleep, and that is the type of sleep where, you know, it's the most restful, and it's actually the brain contracts during that period of time. And when it contracts, there's a bunch of lymph tissue, glial lymph tissue that comes in and sort of washes away a lot of the aggregates that might go on to turn into things like, you know, like Alzheimer's disease, things like that. So it is something to think about just in terms of prioritizing that kind of sleep. The issue is that deep non-REM sleep is most available to us in the first half of the night. So typically you're talking about, you know, from 9 to midnight. If you're asleep during those periods of times, they're more likely to get that kind of sleep. But anyway, just again, just sort of adding a little color to this.
Thanks for making me feel even worse about staying up late.
I just have to tell you, brother. You know what? The thing is that that's one of the things about these damn rings, right? I was kind of joking offline. I don't even think it was offline, but I was joking a little bit at the beginning that I don't feel like that. I used to call myself the health conscious hedonist because, you know, unlike you guys, I'll break the rules sometimes. You know, like I was sitting at the table with you for dinner and you guys wouldn't eat the bread rolls and it looked so good. So I ate them all. Right. So, but you know, the thing is with these
but
rings.
We love you because then we don't have to eat them. Like
well,
we need you. We need that balance. So
I always tell my kids, you know, as long as you know the rules, you can break them. And that's kind of the way I live my life. But this ring has kind of ruined my life in many ways because what it does is it holds me responsible for like my behavior. Like, and so sleep has been one of the big things. And I used to look at everything that's affecting my sleep negatively, like alcohol affects my sleep negatively. Well,
big time.
Oh yeah.
You know, I like drinking. So now I drink, I don't drink nearly as often as I used to. But yeah, I mean, I get it. So yeah, I'm here to make you feel guilty. And if you really want to feel guilty, buy, you know, a device like this. So
yeah, I tried it. Right. So that's why I know what you're talking about. I had a Whoop, right? I had a Whoop that, like, you know, you wear it constantly. And so you really kind of like start getting your scores and this and that. It's like, then I get like, once you gamify something, just my competitive nature,
exactly.
Like, I get too obsessed with it. It's like, oh, my score's not good enough. And this, and so I had to get rid of it. I did it a couple months and I was like, no, this is not going to be healthy for me. Like, it's going to make me more stressed. I'm going to do any benefits for me. So I got to get rid of it. You know? But
I hear
up your heart rate variability score because you're stressed because of your actual sleep scores.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear this for sure. Okay, wait, because we've talked a lot about heart rate variability and now I'm like pulling up my Oura Ring heart rate variability. My average, and because I'm like, is this good or bad? So my average is, it says like Monday it was 39, Tuesday it was 40, yesterday it was 47, and today it's 49. So like, is that a good average heart rate variability?
Something you can't compare to other people. Yeah, it's got to be specifically to yourself, right? Everyone's body's made up a little bit different, and you can't compare it someone else because it's going to throw you way off. So it's more about like personally mapping out your own like averages.
The ring will help you with that a little bit though, because what it's doing is it's taking sort of a long-term view of your heart rate variability. So so I mentioned this once before in the show, but my heart rate tends to be a little bit higher on average. It just has always been a little bit higher baseline, even when I'm in really good shape. And so that actually makes it harder for there to be variability between one beat to another. And so my natural heart rate variability scores are, when it's good, it's like in the high 20s, low 30s. And when I first learned about that, like I listened to some people and they're like, oh, mine's like 70, 80. I'm like, shoot, I must be like near death or something.
Right.
But the reality is what you have to do is you have to look at it from your own baseline. And if you can, and what you're looking at on a day-to-day basis is, relatively speaking, are you more or less in a stressed situation? So if you're running 39-40 baseline, that's your baseline. And if all of a sudden you have a day when you're running like in your 20s, then that means you're probably stressed out, and the heart rate variability is lower. And then you might have some days that are particularly relaxing and recovering, and you might stretch that out. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
So then it would rise to
right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So higher number is
generally better.
Calmer. Yeah. Okay. Is better. Yeah. Okay.
It's just your beat is more off of a rhythm, right? If your heart beats every second and it's just doing it consistently, your central nervous system's out of whack and you're overtrained, you're overstressed, you're running anxiety, whatever it may be, it's getting you there to where you want to like beat 0.6, 1.2, like all over the place,
Right.
Okay.
So I'm curious, like, have you guys felt any benefits since your trip to BioAccelerator yet? I mean, I know sometimes everyone's a little bit different. Sometimes you feel them faster, depends on the ailments. But like, Buck, how's your toe? Are you lifting enough?
It was terrible, right? So, but that is it now 3 weeks since we've been there? Is it? I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit.
No, we're about reaching the end of our second week. Not there.
Okay. So so about 2 weeks. Just so everybody knows that I had a few different areas injected. I had my back, which I've talked about on the show before. I also had my hips done because I was having some soreness, and it looked like I had a labral tear, a bad one in my right hip, which is basically like the meniscus. If people think about knees, it's the same kind of thing in the hip. So I was having that. And then the one last thing that I did, which I did, was kind of a last second thing, was like my left big toe, has been giving me a lot of trouble. I'm a big hiker, or at least I was, until my big toe started bothering me so much. And, it was super stiff. So they're like, okay, yeah, we can inject that as well. So
that's so random.
So I'm thinking to myself, hey, I was just going to throw on a toe, right? Like, I mean, they're doing my back under, IV sedation. They're doing my hips. These are big things. You just throw the toe on. Mm-hmm. Well, oh my God, the toe was the absolute worst. Because it was, it's such a small little space, and they injected it, and it was incredibly painful when they inject. And of course, I couldn't walk for like 2 days. But yeah, it's still pretty sore. I'm still pretty sore in general. And I'm kind of beat up. I still feel like, and this isn't anything negative about the treatment. I do think that there's probably, I'm expecting hopefully in a few weeks to feel like, oh, that was the calm, before the storm of me feeling fantastic, which is I'm kind of hoping, right? But right now, yeah, I'm still kind of a mess. How about you, Nikki? Are you?
Honestly, I've kind of been taking doctor's orders. I'm a very by the book person. If someone tells me like this is what you need to do, then I'm like, okay, great. I love direction. So they told me to take it really easy. And I have felt like, I mean, and like we were saying, I was kind of like energetically under the weather. Like, I'm not sure if it was the stem cells or what, although they did warn us that, you know, sometimes you can get sick or whatever, but I just was not like myself, to be quite honest with you. And I've been dealing with a kind of a sick pup. And so I'm kind of like,
you've been kind of sick too.
Yeah. And so I kind of just been in this, like, I don't know, maybe my body's stressed too. And so I slept a lot. I actually went back to my parents' house and like slept like 9-10 hours a day. And I was noticing, it was, but I was also needing it. It's not like I was just being like, peace out, guys, I'm going to go and be a napper. Like, I was like not feeling well. But I noticed that the more I slept, and right when I would wake up, like, I had a massive difference in like my knees. So I had both my knees done, which, like Buck just throwing on the toe, I just kind of threw in the left knee because I went there originally for my right knee, and my left knee ended up being the biggest bitch of them all. And I couldn't even, TJ definitely was my hero one night. I could not move, and he helped me just function as a human being, which I am in debt to you. And so I just noticed with the like sleeping and stuff, how rapidly I was healing. And so I feel like my knees are epic. So much though that I actually went to like a hardcore Pilates class the other day. And then now I'm feeling like, oh shit, maybe I stressed it out a little bit. Okay. So no, I don't know, but I have to be a little bit more regimented with my physical therapy exercises. Cause like, I'm kind of like you, TJ, where like, I have these like hardcore workouts or like to do that. And like, I will wake up, not eat till noon because I wake up, I go straight to the gym, and I'm a hammerhead with everything that I want to do. And I really get it out. But with this lackadaisical new life I've had this year so far, which is not something I'm used to, I'm like, shit, where do I work out? I'm not like good at revving my engines to go work out at like 3-4 in the afternoon. And so and then these like physical therapy exercises aren't really enough to like, like kind of get you in a rhythm and like you can put your beats on and you can really get into it. It's not like that. It's really just these like really, kind of slower, more precise movements that you have to really make sure you're in correct posture, you're in correct this, you're really fine tuning these muscles and tendons. So I'm just in this like, help me somebody find a routine because I can't, it's not as easy as you like want to drive it hard. Like to have these just kind of, little lackadaisical, like, whatever.
So I'm curious, TJ, like you've done this like, I think 4 times, and part of, and I got to tell you, part of why I'm kind of excited to why this, for this, even though I'm in pain right now, is that like I met all sorts of people like you, like there was another MMA fighter who was like, I guess had been a paraplegic before, and he came in, and everybody had these incredible stories about the benefits. Like, what's your story with this stuff? Because you've been there 4 times, and like, how quickly did you notice stuff? What did you notice?
I've actually had stem cells done 7 times out of the country.
Oh, wow.
So I started back in 2016 fighting for world titles, and I needed surgery. Really bad shoulder. Tore my rotator cuffs, full tears, but I couldn't afford to get a surgery. I was, not only looking to make those big bucks from those big title fights. Like if I get surgery, I'm out for a year and a half, right? And then you lose so much momentum. Like, you lose your belt, you come back, you get it all back. So I did all the research in the world to figure out what some of the best athletes in the world are doing. And I really found like Kobe Bryant. He was going over to Germany and doing a lot of stem cells over there to kind of hold his knees together. And so I started finding finding the best out there. And I ended up finding like the godfather of stem cells with Neil Reardon out of Panama.
In
Stem Cell Institute. Right. And I went down there in 2016 before I fought Cody Garbrandt to get my belt back. And because my shoulder would sublux, it'd pop in and out all the time. And so I went down there and got it done, and it held me together. My shoulder stopped dislocating.
How long did that take, TJ? When you noticed, how long did it take to notice the difference?
It's one of those things. Everyone's a little bit different, but you kind of notice it over time, right? So I did tons of band work, and like I don't think you need to be too worried about working out too hard at this point now. I think it's been long enough personally. But like because even when I went down to Panama, like I would get my shoulder injected, and then I was doing like hard strength shoulder training to kind of really tighten those muscles up in my shoulder, like the day of. But I was doing it for a specific thing. I wasn't doing it for long-term healing. I was doing it specifically for a fight camp.
Right.
So I don't know. I'd probably say like I noticed it within like a month. I started noticing my shoulder was a lot more stable. I knew it wasn't going to heal my rotator cuffs completely because they were fully torn. It's like, it's not going to grow something there that's not attached, right? But if you have a partial tear, you got tear in your cartilage or whatever it may be, you got inflammation in certain areas, it's going to reduce that inflammation. And so I did that the whole end of my career to kind of hold me together to avoid surgeries. And it worked. It worked fantastically. I actually went to Panama 3 times, but then I met someone that was opening up a stem cell institute out in Antigua, and they were buying cells. They weren't making their own. And so what they did is very well off human being, got, quite a bit of money, but they were testing cells off all over the world, buying them from different stem cell institutes to find the best ones. And I was meeting with them about some other venture we had going on and started talking about it. I was obviously very intrigued because I've been into it. So he tested all the stem cells all over the world, and that BioAccelerator was by far the best he's ever tested. It's like, oh, BioAccelerator, I never heard about them yet. This was 2019.
Yeah.
And so once I got introduced to him, I searched him, I looked him up and made my trip down that year. I had to like, oh, you think so? So I went and tested it, and it was fantastic. BioAccelerator is on another level when it comes to what they offer. Not only that their cells are a higher quality because they're directly connected to an OBGYN clinic, right? So they are able to do a lot of testing on the cells they're getting from the family tree of that patient. And so you're getting nothing but the best. And you can see their lab is attached to their clinic, which is very unheard of. So you actually get to see what they're doing. And then they're doing the treatments of the hyperbaric chambers, the cryo chambers. They're doing all these other things to mitigate your inflammation so that your stem cells can really do what they're supposed to, even as far as teaching you the way that you should eat, and also doing your own genetic biomarkers of like, maybe there's foods that are good for you, but are still going to create inflammation in your body genetically for whatever reason you're made up, So I've noticed massive changes within BioAccelerator. And even the trip we just made, I was going down there for my shoulder, which I know my shoulder's kind of toast. It's a Hail Mary to see if it's going to work before I possibly have to get a shoulder replacement. And if I can avoid it, awesome. Most likely I probably won't be able to, but I just don't want to get surgery yet. So I'm throwing a Hail Mary down there. But my back's been bothering me for 3 years. And my dad's got degenerative discs in his back. And I see him walking around. I was like, man, I don't want to look like that. Right. So as I was going down there, I was like, you know what? My back's been bothering me for 3 years. Like, it's hard for me to run. It's hard for me to fly in a plane for too long a time. I get out of bed, my lower back hurts. And so I went down there, got an MRI done, and I'm glad I did. I found out I had a bulging L5 and a herniated L4, and I was losing a lot of the jelly within my discs. And so I ended up injecting my facets and my discs. So I went under just like you, Buck, and I did that. And I'm telling you right now, I've had amazing results already. I've been able to run with no pain. I noticed that like after a week and a half after I got home. So I've been able to run 3 times now and haven't had pain. I've been able to wake up out of bed and not have lower back pain. So that's been the quickest I've seen any kind of results out of something. And it's been amazing.
Stem cell reject here. I'm stem cell reject, man. I mean, my back's still killing me.
Yeah, but yours has been killing you for like 17 years. His has been killing you for 3 years.
No,
and it's also
mine's been killing me for like 40 years, actually.
Oh,
you had back surgery too, right? So,
the first one when I was 15. Yeah.
The more inflammation you have in an area, it's going to hurt more, right?
Yeah.
It's doing more of the work to repair your body, so it's going to hurt longer. It's going to hurt more.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think you feel the way that you feel. I think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and hopefully here in the next month or two, you'll start feeling a big difference, and maybe seeing you're going to subconsciously realize it. Not one day, you're not going to wake up one day and be like, oh, my back's healed. You're going to be like, oh, I was actually able to do that a little bit easier. How long have I been able to do that easier now? And you start thinking about it, it's like, actually, it hasn't been hurting me. And so then you start realizing like, okay, it's working, right? Like I say, like I've been able to get rid of psoriasis, which you're not able to really get rid of. It's an autoimmune disease that's supposed to be with you for life kind of thing, unless you're medicating it. But I went down there for my shoulder 3 or 4 years ago, and I ended up getting rid of my psoriasis. So,
you told me, but I think it's fascinating. How long did that take? How long did it take for your psoriasis to go away?
I'd say it took a couple months.
Yeah.
For it to like fully go away and me notice it. I had it pretty bad on my head. And then, one day I stopped scratching my head as much and realized like, oh, wow, actually, I don't have any psoriasis left, Like,
and that makes a lot of sense because, there's sort of this rejuvenation of the immune system that happens with these things.
Yeah.
And, that's a lot of what this stuff is about. We used to think that the stem cells went in there and they they were going to go in there and turn into something else. The reality is what they do is they basically find the injured tissue and signal to your body where the work needs to be done, and really kind of revs up your own immune system to fix things. So it makes sense. It's going to take a while. So
yeah. Satellite cells are communicating with your body, right? It's like same thing I do with peptide therapies. I take some peptides that help out a lot with my inflammation, and it's the same kind of thing. A branched chain amino acids that are going to trigger a response in your body to make it heal. Our bodies are amazing, right? If we do what we're supposed to do, our bodies are, it's insane what they can actually do. So, their satellite cell is going to help you naturally heal yourself.
I mean, a lot of people have done this. Like, what's the most miraculous thing you've seen?
I'd say like the paraplegics that are able to walk again, right? Like the patients that come in are told you're never going to walk again. And to see that maybe they're getting feeling back in their legs, and to see what it's done to like nerve damage, because nerve damage is one of those things that's irreversible or takes a really long time. And to see that happen, like, makes me feel like I'm a little baby going in there complaining about my shoulder when I got a guy that's in a wheelchair now is walking, right? Like that's what I've seen. That's been an impressive story. And I can't wait till it's even more mainstream and we're actually allowed to have it here in the United States.
I know. It's crazy that we're not, honestly. If we really want to have something where it works for people, we have to do so many extra steps. I mean, you definitely can attest to all that with your company, Wild Society, and all the supplements that you're creating, which is so exciting.
Tell us all about that. Tell us about what you're doing there.
Yeah. So, as an athlete, I've been sponsored by every company under the sun of supplement nutrition companies, and promoted brands and learned the inner workings of it. I actually went as far as started working for one of them at the end of my career. As I was doing that, I was just realizing they were creating very bad products. They were creating products that weren't that great for you. They were selling them and advertising them like they were, and just pulling the wool over your eyes of what you should be doing. And just didn't really make me feel that great. And even like posting about things and getting paid to post about things just was like, I don't even believe in this, So I just started to venture out on myself. Yeah. At the end of my career, I decided to venture out and do it myself because I wanted to create an energy drink that I could actually drink and not feel bad about drinking it. Right. Like,
what is that called?
Looks good too.
What is it called?
Yeah.
Wild
Society Nutrition Company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought that said Bitch Punch. I was like, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
What it's Bitch Punch. My bad.
Bitch Punch. Yes, we made it with organic green tea, so it's a natural caffeine source. It's sweetened with stevia and monk fruit. Avoids all the sugar alcohols and the hormone disrupting sucraloses of the world. Put some nootropics in there that are really great for your mood and just uplifting feeling, to where our protein powder is also everything. We have nothing artificial in our products. You find them on our website, wildsociety.com, wildsociety.nutrition.com, Amazon as well. We're in Sprouts Farmers Market nationwide, which is a very good grocery chain. We're rolling into GNC nationwide here coming April, as well as Vitamin Shop. So we're growing really fast because we created a product for the natural sector that, if we're good enough to be on the shelves of Sprouts or Whole Foods, we're good enough for everyone's pantries,
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
What are your favorites of your products? What are your favorites?
Well, I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I love the energy drinks. I drink probably at least one of those every day. I mean, I created a product for every aspect of my life. Like my isolates here I created are great for a workout, right? So an isolate is fantastic because it doesn't have any lactose in it. It is an isolated protein molecule, so it's rapidly absorbed in your body, as well as the branched chain amino acids are rapidly absorbed. They're the fastest to absorb in your body. So you want to drink it while you're working out or immediately after you're done working out.
Yeah.
But then I have my concentrates over here, which is like the typical chocolate vanilla, more milky. It's a whole protein, so it does have the good fats. It has the lactose in it. It's more of a meal replacement. I'll drink that before I go to bed because it takes 6 hours for the protein synthesis to happen for a concentrate. So I drink before I go to bed so that I have protein synthesis while I'm sleeping. Again, I'm trying to be a meathead and get as big as possible. We got like for snacks, like I'm a big time snacker, but it's hard to find something healthy. Our Caveman Eats. All it is air dried steak slices, only 2 ingredients. It's grass fed beef and sea salt.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, 95 grams of protein per bag. These are amazing.
Damn.
Yeah, it's been fun. And we've always kind of like one-upped all of our products. Like you're kind of buying 2 products with every one because our isolates, we added electrolytes to it. So you're getting an electrolyte powder as well as protein all for the price of one. Our concentrates, we added a superfood mushroom blend to it. So you can get all the adaptogens you would get from like the reishi, the cordyceps, and erythro at the same time as you're getting protein. And we got liver capsules. I mean, I can go on forever, but no one wants to hear about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, go and check it out yourself and support the brand, hopefully, because this is my new passion.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, thanks so much for catching up with us, TJ. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to seeing how you guys are going to be feeling here in the weeks to come and stay in touch. I know me and Nikki have done a good job of staying in touch and becoming friends through this whole thing. It's pretty cool to be on a journey together and chase this longevity dream.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks, TJ. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with our healthy takeout. Welcome back to Longevity Junkie. It's time for our healthy takeout.
What do you think? Obviously, it was kind of fun to just kind of talk to TJ.
I know, it was so cool. I feel like we had this whole other life for a second, and we got to make all these different friends and just connect with different people from around the world, because even some of those guys were like from Ireland and stuff, and we all got to just have this common golden thread of just stem cell therapy, which was really awesome.
Yeah, there was that one guy that's who one of the guys we were talking about before, and I think he posted about him too. And
he was a paraplegic guy.
Yeah, he was like a paraplegic, like from an MMA fight, and
his story's
pretty crazy. Like,
it is.
I mean, he really thinks that the stem cells did a lot in terms of getting him back to walking. And so it was funny because when he came walking in, he had a little bit of a limp, but I mean, it was pretty miraculous.
Well, that's pretty miraculous, knowing that we know now that he was actually in a wheelchair and couldn't even hold his baby daughter. So, that's a transformation if I've ever heard and seen one. So, but I didn't realize that TJ had been doing stem cells since 2016, and also this is like his 7th therapy or something.
Yeah.
That was pretty incredible.
7 treatments. So
yeah. But I love that he's gone around the world. He's tried different kinds. He even went to a therapy clinic that, bought stem cells from all over. So he was actually able to be like, okay, well, which one do you find to be the most effective and the best cells? And he was saying that back in 2019, and BioAccelerator was the, creme de la creme. And so he went there. And it's funny because my first treatment was in 2020. And then I was there with Chuck Liddell, and who's another, very renowned fighter. And it's interesting though that TJ and I go back this time, and we both were very impressed with the protocol now, and the also the potency of the cells now. So it's just that BioAccelerator had this incredible reputation even back in 2019, 2020, but has only gotten better, has only, growing with the times of what we know about stem cells to make it sure that it is of the top quality, of its top effectiveness and potency. And I think that's one of the reasons why they do have such a phenomenal reputation, and all like the fighters of the world, all of them, all the athletes, these top athletes go there. I mean, literally we're sitting, waiting for our next thing, and there's like the quarterback of the Bears right there, or, it's like all these people come in because their reputation precedes them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I was pretty, impressed with the way they handled it. And I think it all comes from, Eric Stoffers, who's a founder. I mean, Eric's
incredible.
Just a great guy, really committed to the idea of really providing a top-notch product. The degree to which that they go to, try to optimize the stem cell products themselves, even down to, make testing them through hypoxia and making sure that they are able to survive in low oxygen environments and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool stuff. The other thing that's pretty cool about BioAccelerator, and I asked Eric about this because, of course, Panama, Reardon in Panama is really well known, and they've been around for a long time. However, they only do IV, and apparently the main reason for that is they just don't have sort of the skill, surgeons and that kind of thing to do a lot of the injections that are required. Where Colombia, which I thought was really interesting, has a very, very well-trained surgical system, and a lot of that is because of it having a history of a narco state and an extreme amount of violence in the 80s and 90s that created essentially this surgical
they needed trauma doctors.
Well, if you look at the evolution of surgery in general, it's benefited greatly from war. Plastic surgery, for example, was essentially invented during war. So
makes sense.
So it makes a lot of sense. They have a very highly well-trained surgical resource there in Colombia. Doctors are great, and so made for a really good situation. But
and TJ is just like the best guy ever. It was really amazing to have him sit next to me by chance at dinner, and him and I talk about that, and him make me kind of get checked. Like my mind got checked again, and I feel like my regimen got checked, and I was like, that's me. I'm like, where I found myself again in TJ. It was like I needed that reminder of like, remember why you do it. So like TJ really helped me in life. He doesn't know it. I'm like,
and it was good for me because then I got to eat all the other food that you guys didn't eat that was sitting right there in front because,
I heard it was delicious. I went back to that restaurant we are talking about with the bread, and you know this, and the person that I went with, he ended up eating all of the bread as well. And so so I understand. Apparently it's a fan favorite.
Yeah.
All right. But actually, before we go, I wanted to tell our listeners that we want your questions. We want your questions on longevity. So Buck and we would love to hear from you. So what we have done is we've made a section on longevityjunky.com where you can leave a voice message there to express what questions you have, and we would love to feature them on the show. So please get on to www.longevityjunky.com. Leave us a voice message of your longevity questions or health questions, and we cannot wait to hear from you.
And remember, that's Junky with a Y, because we purposely misspelled it.
This is true. Good call, Buck. Good job. LongevityJunkyWithAY.com.
Well, great show. You want to read us out?
Yes, of course. Longevity Junky is created by Dr. Buck Joffrey, MD, and Timothy Fonora. It is executive produced by myself, Nikki Lee, Buck Joffrey, and Timothy Fonora. The show is produced by Pretty Fast, and Phil Ferragamo is our producer, and original music by Alloy Tracks. We're distributed by our friends at Acast, and see you next time.